Good morning and thank you for coming to the Army Corps of Engineers project briefing at the Pajaro Levee. My name is Nick Pasculli. I'm the County Communications Director, and we're going to hear from a number of speakers, but first I'd like to introduce to you District 2 Supervisor, the Supervisor of this district, Mr. Glenn Church. Supervisor Church.
Good morning. As Mr. Pasculli said, I want to welcome everybody here for today, which is really a good landmark, a great landmark here of where we're going to be going from this part. This community, this river is, as we all know, it's a natural floodplain. It's been flooding long before there were any houses on here, and it's got a history of flooding going from the 1800s to. I was looking back at the numbers, and there were times back 100 years ago it was getting flooded 4 times in a decade, and the Army Corps tried to address that back in 1949, putting in this levee. It's unfortunately different standards back then. It hasn't held up as well. It's improved the situation, but now we have a real opportunity to go forward and really address this levee, address this flooding, and really this is going to be beginning of an opportunity to make a better, a stronger, a more resilient levee. And what we're doing here what we're seeing here today is going to really make, just for this next coming year, a stronger levee than there has been this previous year when we had this flooding come about. So I'm really optimistic. I'm really grateful for the Army Corps for their determination, their flexibility of looking in and coming here today, starting the long-term rebuilding of this levee, which are going to start up next year, which is really ahead of schedule, and it's a really great opportunity here, I think, and I think we're all really hopeful for the future a little bit more. So I'd like to introduce Chair of the Monterey County Board of Supervisors, Luis Alejo. Luis.
Thank you to my colleague, Supervisor Church. It's good to be here in his district. As the Chair of the Monterey County Board of Supervisors and as the former mayor of my hometown of Watsonville, I want to first of all, thank all our partners, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the County of Santa Cruz, the City of Watsonville, the Pajaro Regional Flood Management Agency, and especially our governor and our state legislators and our state agency partners that are making today possible. I do want to acknowledge all the elected officials here, including my colleagues, the mayor of Watsonville, Eduardo Montesino, and Felipe Hernandez, as well, the supervisor on the other side of this levee. Because we know that doing the long overdue work on the Pajaro River requires extensive collaborations and a persistent and unwavering commitment to get all the required work on this river done and have it fully funded. We must provide the flood protection that is needed to safeguard our neighborhoods, our businesses, and our agricultural fields on both the Monterey County and Santa Cruz County sides of this levee system. Our communities in Pajaro and Watsonville have gone through the most challenging of times earlier this year. And so many of our families lost so much. And we owe it to them to get this work done as soon as possible, to give them that peace of mind that their neighborhoods and their homes are safer, because we know that climate change and these more severe storm systems are impacting our most vulnerable residents so severely, not only here, but throughout the state of California, in places like Planada and Tulare County in the Central Valleys. So today it is about making immediate needed repairs in 3 critical parts of this levee system on the Pajaro River, as we know that heavy storms may come once again next winter. But we will then focus on getting the long-term solution expedited. I'm grateful to our federal and state partners for this critically needed work that will take place, and I also appreciate Governor Newsom for his most recent executive order to place a pause on the environmental review requirements to move this work ahead more quickly. Our state legislators are also working on some additional measures to also expedite the permitting too in the last few weeks of the legislative session. All these actions demonstrate that a strong commitment that we will translate into actions to get the levee project accomplished once and for all. Let's not stop until all the required work is done. Monterey County is committed to stay in the foxhole with all of you until the very end, and until we can face our communities and tell them that the work got done. With that, I want to introduce my other colleague from the Santa Cruz County Board of Supervisors, Zach Friend. He's the chair of the Pajaro Regional Flood Management Agency. Thank you very much.
Good morning. We're really at a defining moment in the over 70-year history of this levee as we move from where we were toward a rebuilding process to where we need to be. The work that's being done on the areas that failed in the last winter will make for a stronger levee in those sections, but we still have significant system vulnerabilities throughout the levee system, which is why getting toward full construction, ideally beginning in summer of next year, is the ultimate goal. Because for over 70 years, these communities have not prayed for rain. They've been fearful of what could happen within these areas, and we knew the system vulnerabilities that came through became realized over this last winter. And we're very grateful for the Army Corps' leadership on this, and as my colleague noted, the leadership at the state. We're the only community in the entire United States to have the entire federal share, the entire local share covered by the state government. We're working now to remove all the regulatory barriers that could add any kind of time to this project right now through our state delegation and our federal delegation. But we still know that we've got a winter coming up. We still know that people need to be prepared for that winter. We still know that there are system vulnerabilities. And even though these repairs are the beginning and the transition toward this, we have a long way to go until people can fully feel secure living adjacent to these levees. And I think that what you're seeing here today is not just a commitment to that, but also you see community-based partners like our friends here at Community Bridges who are helping that rebuilding process of people's lives. We're talking about infrastructure, but people's lives have been impacted in ways that for generations now are going to be something that people remember. So I appreciate your work on that, Mr. Cancino, as well. And as had been mentioned, takes a multi-jurisdictional effort, and I'd like to welcome a colleague from the state here. We've got Mr. Mizani from the Department of Water Resources here to talk about some of the state-related stuff, too.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me today. My name is Mehdi Mizani, and I'm one of the Deputy State Floodplain Managers from the California Department of Water Resources. On the behalf of the California Department of Water Resources, I'm here to discuss our ongoing commitment to the Pajaro River watershed and the residents within this community. The devastating atmospheric rivers that affected California, and specifically this region earlier this year, truly underscore the importance and the urgency for long-term solutions that incorporate climate change projections. When the Pajaro Levee failed earlier this year, DWR specialists were on the ground to provide technical support as well as critical flood fight materials. Through our emergency repairs, we were able to stabilize the levee in order for the Army Corps of Engineers to be able to implement these longer-term solutions. Looking forward, DWR will continue supporting these communities through our Proposition 1 Coastal Flood Risk Reduction Program, as well as the statewide Federal Flood Control Subventions Program. Both of these programs provide critical funding for continued additional improvements to strengthen the Pajaro River watershed, which will help to bolster these levee systems to withstand future climate threats and keep residents safe. In closing, I want to thank the Army Corps of Engineers for prioritizing these critical repairs. Our coordinated efforts really demonstrate the power of partnerships to be able to build resilient communities. And together, I believe that we can ensure that the Pajaro River watershed and the communities will be prepared and better protected for climate challenges ahead. I'm excited for the upcoming improvements and the future longer-term improvements for the Pajaro River levee system, and I appreciate being here today. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Tim Shebesta. I'm commander of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers San Francisco District. I'd like to start here today to say thank you to everyone who came together to make this project come together. Marking this start of the construction is a very important point for us. This year, 3 emergency repair projects will begin along the left bank of the Pajaro River. It'll be a series of construction projects to provide stronger, more resilient system for this community. This left bank rehabilitation project focuses on 3 critical sections of the Pajaro River levee system that were breached during this past winter's rainstorms. The repair sites have been contracted separately, with sites 1 and 3 awarded to C Construction on July 20th and August 18th, respectively. Construction mobilization began for Site 1 last week, and Site 3 will begin in the coming weeks. I want to say thank you to the team of teams, all the members that came together to make this happen for us. The members of Congress at the federal level, as well as many local and state representatives who came together to make this happen so quickly for us. The impressive speed is due to all the teamwork together from all the different groups. We're working here to build a safer levee system for the entire community, to build resiliency over the coming years, working with Engineering with Nature Concepts to help build resiliency in the structure itself, while dealing with an ever-changing climate that we're facing in front of us. Thank you for coming together to make this happen for us and working together to protect the communities around this area. Next, I'm going to introduce Holly Costa, our Emergency Management Chief, who will talk more details of the project. Thanks, Holly.
Not as tall as my boss. Good morning, my name is Holly Costa. I'm the Emergency Management Chief for the San Francisco District of the Army Corps of Engineers. To give a little background on the project we're working on and how it has been made possible, the Army Corps of Engineers Rehabilitation and Inspection Program is authorized under Public Law 8499, which gives the Corps of Engineers the ability to repair federal and non-federal projects that are damaged from flooding events. So following the winter storms that resulted in these 3 breaches, the County of Monterey reached out to us and asked for assistance. We went to headquarters and said, this is an important project. Can we have money to do this? Headquarters said, absolutely, here you go. Not quite that simple. So through appropriations from Congress, we have the Flood Control and Coastal Emergencies Appropriation, which typically funds repair work like this. The entire country is suffering under flooding events, and so that pot of money was running a little low. So Congress got together and said, we need more money, and passed a disaster relief supplemental appropriation of $400 million, give or take. And the Pajaro projects here received 20 million of that. So they saw that this was a priority and that this needs to be done as quickly as possible. So our team, in coordination with the county and the state, got together to plan this out, make sure we have all of the environmental considerations, all of the cultural considerations. We're not cutting any corners, but we are making sure things are as efficient as possible so that this work can get done this season to restore levee protection to the community downstream. So we started with Site 1 here. This was the biggest priority. So we moved forward with the contracting and the design on that one first. As you see, the work is starting. It should be completed before November 2nd, I believe, is our target date. Site 2 and Site 3 are going to take a little bit longer just because of the sequencing of events. Site 2 had a sewer line in the levee, which it wasn't supposed to be there. So the county needs to move that out of the way for us because of the way that our funding laws are written. The Corps was not allowed to move it, but we worked together with the county. The county is on site right now at Site 2, which is under Highway 1, and they are already moving that sewer line. The repairs for that are supposed to take about 2 to 3 weeks, during which time we are going to finalize our plans for repairing the levee at Site 2. And so we should be able to start on that one within the next couple of months. Site 3, as the Colonel mentioned, we have already contracted. We are just wrapping up some of the requirements of getting moving on the work on that. So that should also be starting up in the next few weeks. And we're always available to answer questions. If you want specific information on what's going on where, you can check out our website, or you can call any one of our offices to provide further information. And with that, I believe I'm the last person talking, so if there are any questions.
We'll open up some questions, but I do want to recognize a few other people that are here today. We have our CAO for the County of Monterey, Sonia De La Rosa, and we also have our Director of the Department of Emergency Management, Ms. Kelsey Scanlon. And so at this point, we'll open up to questions. The Army Corps will be happy to answer any questions you might have.
So the question was, how long is the levee system and how do we know where the other vulnerabilities are? The levee system is approximately 12 miles long, and there is an inspection requirement when, let me back up, when levees are either built by the Corps or accepted into our rehabilitation and inspection program, there is a requirement for annual inspections by the non-federal sponsor of that levee system. None of these levees are owned or maintained by the Corps. They are owned and maintained by non-federal sponsors. So their requirement is to inspect the length of the levee system every year to determine where the deficiencies are, where maintenance is required. And the Corps will come in and do periodic inspections and request reports from the non-federal sponsor to check on those vulnerabilities. Have they been maintained? Have they been improved? So it is a county responsibility to inspect those, and we've been talking with the county. They are conducting those inspections now to determine where any other vulnerabilities are before the next coming flood season. And, did you want to add to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is Mark Strudly, the Executive Director of PERFMA.
Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to add some additional detail to that last question about other vulnerabilities to the system. We heard that, there is a repair going on behind us that's going to make this section of the levee stronger than it was previous to the break. But as Director Friend said, we have an old levee system that has existing vulnerabilities in it. So as the non-federal sponsor who's responsible for overseeing the operations and maintenance of this facility, we are already in the process with an external panel of experts to help us understand how we can prioritize our limited resources in addressing the other remaining vulnerabilities of the system. So we are in that process, and we plan to take action with other maintenance activities before the rainy season starts to address those other vulnerabilities as best we can. Thank you.
Do you have a completion date for Site 2 and Site 3, and how vulnerable is the levee of Site 2? Isn't going to be starting in for a few months?
That was not a few months. It should be a few weeks.
For Site 2?
For Site 2.
Oh, okay. And Site 3? Oh, Site 3 is, when does that start?
We don't have an exact date yet because there's still some planning in progress. The repair to the sewer line is being conducted right now and should be completed in 2 to 3 weeks, at which point we should be able to start our repair of the levee, which should also take 2 to 3 weeks. Our goal is to have all of the repairs done before the end of November. That is what we are aiming for. Yes. If we can get it done sooner, awesome. But I can't make any promises on exact dates.
So if yearly inspections are supposed to be being done on the levee, how did the levee get to this point where this disaster happened?
We're still undergoing determination of how exactly the failure mode occurred, but what I can say is that this levee, since it was built in the 40s, it was built to far different engineering standards than what we would build a levee to now, which is why this replacement that's going on behind us is going to be stronger and more resilient than the levees to either side of it. So part of our inspection program, part of what was previously the responsibility of each county and now the responsibility of the Pajaro Regional Flood Management Agency, we go through these inspection processes and we apply our resources, the maintenance funds that we have, to address maintenance needs. But again, this is a very old levee system, and so a reflection of what you see here is because of that history and the fact that this system needs to be rebuilt because it's past its useful design life.
Mark, since you're up there.
Go ahead, Taylor.
So you were talking about what happens next, kind of. What happens next after we get these temporary fixes done, completed? What's the next phase for the overall rehabilitation of the levee?
The next phase is building the new levee system. So we are on target and have worked cooperatively with the Army Corps to arrange for construction start in 2024, so next construction season. We're going to be starting to build the new levee system and putting that new system in place, which is going to be immeasurably more important than just this small little patch fix here. It's going to be a system-wide rebuild of the levee system.
Supervisor Friend mentioned earlier some regulatory, like making it easy regulatory-wise for the overall levee project. I'm wondering if you can talk more about that, what those are.
Yeah, so this is something also that Supervisor Alejo, Chair Alejo had mentioned as well. So we had worked with the state to try and remove any of the environmental or other regulatory barriers in regards to getting the temporary fixes done, the tributary work done, and then moving forward on a legislative level to getting the entire project done. As you can imagine, all of the both CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act requirements, and the NEPA requirements can add significant amount of time. But as the Colonel mentioned, this is by design a very environmentally friendly project. In fact, it's a national model project on this engineering with nature design project. And I think that we can all agree that when a levee breaks, it destroys an entire community. That's not an environmentally friendly issue. That's an environmental disaster. And so anything that we can do to expedite the process is going to improve the environmental outcome. That was the pitch that we made to the governor. The governor, when he visited, made it very clear that he wanted to remove any, or he said, what do you need in order to expedite this process? That was our first ask, was removing any of the state environmental or regulatory burdens associated with it. And his executive order does exactly that, at least for this first component. Did that answer it, Todd?
I failed to recognize Under Sheriff Keith Boyd as well today. So any other questions for our panel? Okay, so the representatives from the Army Corps will be available for individual questions at the conclusion of this briefing. I want to thank everybody for attending today, and as you leave, please be safe and stay on the paved road. We're trying to respect the farmers' land around us. So thank you so much for being here. Have a good day.